Yes, okay, great. We're all back in one piece and live. Good to see you guys, and welcome everyone to the call. Sorry we kept you holding there for a moment. We're going to get started in a second, and I'll introduce you to all of our friends here and Let's Get Checked, but just a tiny bit of housekeeping maybe before we get started. So look, for anyone for whom this is your first webinar with us, I'm Jane, obviously in charge of the careers area here in Code Institute. So just to give you a sense of what we're going to go through today. So we have Let's Get Checked with us. On your screens you can see Lisa and Jamie, so I'll tell you who they both are now in a second. We have a chat function on the right hand side. So guys, we're going to go through some slides. We're going to hear a bit about Let's Get Checked. And we are, of course, going to designate some time for Q&A. But please don't be shy if there's something that comes up during it that you want to know more about, or even just vocalize a question, have it there. We'll be keeping an eye on it, and we'll do our very best to get to it and to use our time really well. We do have designated Q&A from about 1:45, so don't worry, but we'll have a nice time there to do it. And look, for anyone who might need to duck out of this webinar early, it is going to be recorded. It will be pinned to the events channel on Slack. And also, Let's Get Checked have got some lovely media that they've shared with us that is probably best used for you guys to look at in your own time. So there's going to be a couple of videos there. And then also, in addition to this, for anyone who hasn't yet seen it, we have pinned 4 job specs to the Job Alerts channel. We're going to address some of the detail around them today. So look, just bear in mind that's where they are. Go and check them out and have a look. Okay, cool. So guys, welcome. We've got Lisa on the right, as far as I can tell, anyway, on my screen. Lisa, thanks for joining us. You're part of the HR admin team and Let's Get Checked.
I am indeed, yeah.
Thanks for your time. It's great to have you here. And then we also have Jamie, and Jamie is Talent Acquisition Manager, particularly in the technical space with Let's Get Checked. So Jamie, lovely to have you here as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, or having us.
Yeah, and there is another possible joiner later on. We've had a couple of just a little technical hiccup, but we also have Kevin McGee, who's the SVP of Engineering. So even if we don't get to see Kevin in the face, he's behind the scenes, and he's going to be there to try and help out with addressing some of the the technical questions around the tech stack with Let's Get Checked. But look, before we start, you have one hell of a story to share with us, guys. It's been a bit of a roller coaster year for you, I'd say. In terms of, oh my goodness, well done. So take a deep breath for the next hour.
Try and process it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'll share my screen. Thanks everyone for joining and for hosting us. We're really excited to be partnering with you guys. Can you guys see that? Am I presenting correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So welcome to the Let's Get Checked and Code Institute webinar, hopefully the first of many. So I guess a little bit of a background about the company. So obviously Let's Get Checked, if you had a look at the website or you've read up a little bit about us, essentially what we do is provide personal health testing. So the whole goal being that we allow people to track and monitor their health and their well-being from, I guess, the comfort and the safety of their own home. You'll see a few videos now, but essentially, how it works is, for example, if you or I were to go onto the website or onto our apps, you can choose a health test of your choice. I think there's probably like 30 or 35 different tests that we cover, and that ranges from everything from, sexual health to well-being tests. Obviously, COVID is the biggest kind of talking point for the last year, and that's one of the tests that we offer too. And again, the video will show a little bit more information, but you get like a little testing kit delivered to your house. From there, that allows you to kind of draw a sample, which then gets sent back to our labs for analysis, and those results get communicated back to you. So like I said, really empowering people to track and monitor their health from home. And, in a COVID world, this kind of is extremely relevant now. I suppose it's probably a bit of a stigma around, going into hospitals or clinics. So people are really seeing the value in what we do more so, now more so than ever. That's like Jane was saying, the last year has been nothing short of crazy for us. I suppose like a little bit of background around myself. I joined Let's Get Checked kind of towards the end of 2019. So it's been just over a year for me. When I started, not only was I kind of the only recruiter on the team, but our whole technical function was probably around 30 people overall. And whereas today we're sitting at, I think, 170 or something. Is that right, Lisa? Something around there. So it's been really exponential growth over the last year and a bit. And obviously it's really not slowing down at all. So I'll move on to the next slide and show you just a little bit more around the product. I don't think the audio is working, but just so you can see, I guess, a little bit of a snapshot of what Let's Get Checked is all about, and we can talk through that.
There's kind of loads of ways, isn't there? Just what you were saying there, Jamie, Lisa, like even just financial implications on access to healthcare, like you guys have really turned that on its
head.
Especially in the US, because there's always so many conversations around the cost of healthcare there.
That's exactly it. So that's been a big kind of, well, that was what kind of separated us in the beginning. So there you can see the apps. Sorry, I'll be back in now.
Yeah.
And that's the little testing kit that actually gets delivered to your house. So those kits could be anything from COVID to, liver function or whatever it might be. But yeah, to answer your question, that was kind of our value add in the beginning, making it more accessible, making it more affordable for people. It's just in the last year, it made a lot more sense to people in the sense that, the whole idea of being a personal well-being company makes more sense than it did before. But just to give you a little bit of a context on kind of how the journey started for Let's Get Checked. So still very much a startup. It was founded in 2014 by Peter Foley and Ronan Ryan, our CEO and COO. And, as most startups do, kind of slow chugging along in the beginning. So 2016 was when they got their first kind of big funding. I think before that, the company as a whole was only a handful of people. So really rapid growth since then. So kind of from 2016, things really started kicking off for Let's Get Checked. And then obviously, as you can see, just kind of year on year, even the funding's been exponential. Obviously, last year we raised up to 71 million. So I think our total funding to date is probably around 120, almost 130 million, somewhere around there. And that's just really been, especially as of 2019, 2020, a lot of startups before that time rely on the funding to go from day-to-day operations, whereas with us, we're quite fortunate in the sense that the most recent funding has been to propel us forward. So it's not to keep the business afloat. It's really been about taking us to those next steps and to those next levels. So you'll see on this next video, but what kind of separates Let's Get Checked from the handful of competitors that we might have is the fact that we own the entire supply chain. So what I mean by that is literally from the points of putting those testing kits together all the way through to owning our own labs that do the analysis of the samples for us and every step in between that. So if you look at us as a business, we've got production facilities, where the kits are being put together. You'll see that in the next video. We've got we've got doctors, nurses on staff. We've got obviously the support functions, like marketing and the rest of that. We've got people in the labs, the lab technicians, and obviously we've got a big tech function that kind of draws this all together. So how it essentially works is our technical team is responsible for pretty much building the system throughout every step of that process in the supply chain. So we've got teams that build the systems that manage the dispatch of the kits leaving the warehouse, or the Let's Get Checked websites, or the apps, or the dashboard that the nurses would use to communicate your results to you. That's all built internally. So that's why our technical function is so important. We are a medical company, but we are just as much a technology company. And that's that's why I said I think we're at 170 just in the technical team as of today. So I hope does that make sense how I've explained it, just in terms of like a bit of background on where the tech teams really fit in, because on the surface we look very much medical focused.
Well, it's really diverse then, isn't it? Because there's so many ways that the tech intercepts this whole journey for the product and the user, obviously. But yeah.
Exactly. So, our teams, they kind of take ownership of particular areas. So, we've got a team that, builds the apps. We've got a team that builds the dashboard for the nurses, and they all kind of interlink across their various different Scrum teams. So I'll just quickly play this video. This is just to give you a snapshot of the production facility over in Park West. So I think I'm the only one that can hear this.
Well, don't worry, guys. Yeah, don't worry. These are some of the challenges and things. But we'll just for anyone who wants to revisit these videos, they're open. I'll put them in the Slack channel for you all. But do you know what's fascinating about this though is that to be able to kind of physically see just the the different teams within one business. Like we did this one time, something similar with understanding how SaaS business is is built and seeing the different components of it, because it's a really rare chance that you get to really kind of look at a company and see how all this knits together.
Exactly.
So this is where all of the devices are being stored and shipped. Yeah,
so this is the actual production facility in Dublin where the kits are being put together. So it's this has changed in the last year that I've been here. This is a new facility. Everything, like you would have seen, is pretty much automated. And that's ties back into the tech function. But that's what makes us so unique as a business, in the sense that, like I said, we're not just a production facility, we're not just a lab, we everything. So that's, even when we try and do like benchmarking activities with other companies, it's so hard to put us into a bracket because we kind of go across the board. But that's really what's helped us scale to where we are now, and that's what's going to keep driving us forward, in the sense that COVID is the perfect example. When COVID hit, we were so well positioned to obviously help fight the virus by coming out with our testing kit. But because we own that entire supply chain, we were able to move quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You weren't relying on third parties to sort of fill in the gaps for you. You could control it. Exactly.
So now the labs. I don't know too much about the labs, but I'll try and talk. I'll try and talk through this. So these are obviously the lab technicians. This is actually our lab in California. So you'll see that it used to be called InSource Diagnostics. So we acquired LGC Labs probably towards the end of 2019. And that was also one of the really big defining factors for us, one of the big separators for us, going forward. And we've also just recently announced that we are opening up a lab. We're in the process, I think, of opening up a lab in Dublin to focus on the European market. So that's kind of what I was mentioning all around, continuing to scale as a business.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk about this. Is just something to be really mindful, guys, when you're listening to this, of your own professional backgrounds and moving to a technical environment, because we won't sit in it right now, but I know that this is something that you guys wanted to talk about as well, that because you own all these different parts, but it's really important for you to have diverse coders who maybe have a background in medical area or nursing or supply chain or warehousing or all the different areas that you have.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. So how that's a really big thing for us. Obviously, a good software engineer or a good quality assurance person is a good person, but to have that kind of, I guess, industry knowledge, especially for the type of business that we're in, is so useful. We've got a couple of examples, I think, of where we've hired someone that actually was a biomedical engineer into our quality assurance, our software QA team, just because they bring that they really understand the industry in which we operate. So if it's someone coming from like a production background or a nursing background or a medical background, those are all the kind of skills, along with the technical side, that really kind of add value to us.
Yeah, and keeping that information there. So so this slide here then is the kind of three core different areas which incorporate
exactly.
Technologies, yeah.
So this is just a kind of rough overview, but these are the kind of three pillars that form part of like our technical or technology teams. So we've got engineering, as you can see. So these are the software engineers, the quality assurance. The information security team is obviously a very, very important section for us. Because we essentially have access to people's medical records. It's an important a lot of responsibility. So the information security team plays a big part. But yeah, so there's the engineering function, you know, like you would see the engineers that actually build the systems, like I've mentioned previously. Then we've got the product and design team. So obviously product managers work very closely with the software engineers and quality team to, you know, drive the roadmap forward and you know, continue you know, kind of pushing forward what we're trying to achieve. But then we've got the product designers as well as the graphic designers. So those guys are kind of responsible either for, you know, designing the physical test kits themselves or the websites or you know, these little figures. So again, that's something that, you know, we haven't outsourced. Again, it's all kind of falling within the umbrella of Let's Get Checked. And then there's obviously the data team, you know, which manages all the data kind of flowing in and out of the business. Because like I said, you know, we have access to, well, not essentially people's medical records, but we've got an access to like an enormous amount of data, whether it's medical information or sales information or whatever it is. And that's kind of what the data team is responsible for. I guess our long-term goal or overall goal as a business is to be more focused on personal well-being. So what I mean by that is, you know, you use the testing kit more so as a tool rather than the main product. So that means, you know, it's going to start integrating with things like your wearable technologies, like your smartwatches or like a glucose monitor, for example. And you might get a notification on your smartwatch to say, we've picked up an anomaly in your heartbeat. You know, go use the heart test. And then, you know, in the kind of long term, you know, we're kind of going to focus on telehealth, which will be more around, you know, allowing people, so essentially being a one-stop shop for anything personal well-being rather than, you know, just providing testing kits. I suppose those are the kind of goals that we're trying to achieve.
Wow. Actually, that's kind of Janelle's, he's attending here, had asked a question about that around mental health and maybe moving towards the health or well-being area. So I guess actual mental health is a totally different ballgame, but the wellness space certainly can be tied into your...
Yeah, exactly. And look, I suppose when there's any kind of physical illness, there's always an element of mental health that goes alongside of that. So, you know, we've got nurses on staff that are, you know, obviously responsible for providing people with their results and their analysis. You know, if you know, touch wood, you know, if you have a cancer test and it comes back positive, you need a trained professional to kind of guide you through that and what the next steps would be. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. But, you know, again, we want to get to that point where, you know, we can provide them with the solution after that, you know, not just direct them to the next step. We want to be that next step too. So that's all kind of, you know, the exciting next steps of the business. But yeah, what was the next one? Oh, okay. So this was quite interesting in the sense that just to meet some of the team that we've got here at Let's Get Checked. So I'll just quickly run through it. So Andy's a really good example of someone that has moved up the ranks really quickly, like you can in a startup like ours. So he started literally as a graduate, and he started as a junior software engineer. And within the space, I think he's been here probably around the same time as me. Within the space of a year or so, he's really moved up the ranks and entrenched himself within the team so much. And what's nice about us in our business is we still are able to reward, you know, good work a lot quicker than I guess a big corporate can, in the sense that, you know, you can move up here a lot quicker than you would maybe at a Fortune 500 company, for example, just because it's a little bit more dynamic, it's a little bit more fast paced, which means, you know, what you do, it can have a real impact, but on the flip side, it's also quite stressful in the sense that, there's not necessarily a magnifying glass, but it is every role is important to us, basically. You know, everyone that we hire plays a very big part in what we do. And then we've got Linda O'Leary. I didn't just add her here because she gave me a special mention, but Linda is one of our DevOps engineers, but the reason why I added her in because she's been really such a good advocate for the company and for our kind of women in tech initiatives. So obviously, women in technology is a very, very scarce thing, but something that we kind of pride ourselves on, and we're trying to drive forward. So Linda's one of our women in technology, and if you read her little write-up here, she went to a conference in Dublin called Tech Found Her, and that was kind of marrying technology and then she technology and medicine, and then just by luck, I kind of reached out to her at the right time, and the rest is kind of history. So she's been a really, really good addition to the team, and someone that's helping shape the technical team, I guess. And then lastly, we've got Paolo. So he's one of our technical leads. Really, really great guy. How do I describe Paolo?
Sounds like a character. Yeah.
He really is. He loves to brew his own beer, and that's why him and I get along well. But Paolo also has an interesting journey with us. He started essentially number one in a team. Again, this is also only about, when I'm talking about this, we're talking about a space of max 2 years of how quickly things change. So he started as the only person in the team. His team is responsible for what we call a Halo. So it's essentially that kind of core dashboard that the nurses and the doctors would use to keep track of everything. And I think now, so he was the only person in the team. I think now he has a team of about 6 or 7. And that's growing. So this was in the space of a year. He's gone from a team of 1 to now a team of 6 or 7, which is obviously a massive achievement. That's just how quickly things move over here. But those are a few of the team members that you'll be chatting to if you join the team. And then, so Lisa, on to the recruitment process.
Oh yes, that'd be brilliant. God, even just listening to you, Jamie, like I've been here 6 months, and it's amazing how quickly you do get entrenched in the company, and how kind of like connected you feel to like everyone in the company, and how committed you feel. Like you feel so proud, like listening to how much we've grown in the last year. Like you feel really, really proud to be part of it, and especially having an impact on people's health and wellness and COVID and everything like that. It really is. If a company like that is something that you're interested in and making an impact on people's lives, I mean, like it's definitely like a really good company to be a part of. But yeah, I'll go through the recruitment process. So for the tech guys, what we generally do is we would have a HR screening, probably about a 15-minute phone call with one of our recruiters. There's 4 of them on the team. So we have Jamie, AJ, Owen, and Pedro. Pedro supports our entity that we're building over in Portugal. So we have some software engineers over in Portugal as well. So he would mainly recruit over there, but they would have a quick 15-minute phone call with yourself. And then we would usually set up about a 30-minute tech kind of screening video interview with someone from the technical team. And they would go through some short questions about your technical abilities. And then after that, we would move you on to a technical test. So you may or may not be given the technical test. It depends on either the role or where we feel your ability is at. So you would do that in your own time, and that would get assessed. And then we would move you on then to the technical interview. So the technical interview is about 60 minutes, and it's with 2 members of the technical team. One would do the kind of algorithmic exercise, the coding exercise, and someone do a solution design, which would talk through the technical test that you did in your own time. So that is kind of the main process. And then after that, we would bring you on then for a kind of a 30-minute call with the team lead or the dev manager for that specific area, just to talk about kind of how you would fit into the team or the culture in the company. And then after that, it's decision time, and that's it. And we try to keep it relatively quick. We don't want anyone to be having to wait around. So the process is fairly quick. It's 1 or 2 weeks. And we try and keep the feedback fairly speedy as well. The guys are great at doing that.
And you mentioned that do the tech tests or the various kind of assessments and screenings, they presumably vary a bit dependent on obviously the job in hand and the level
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So we have different ones for QAs, front end, .NET, depending on the kind of avenue that the person is going down.
Okay. Sorry, Jamie, were you going to say something there as well?
I did, but I kind of we try and give. I think the one thing that I like to mention to everyone is that we try and be as open as possible. That's why we do that initial tech screening call with one of the engineers, in the sense that it's just a sense to get a feel for your skill set. Previously, we used to do a technical test first, but we found that it's not a great reflection in the sense that people aren't as bought into the company. I'm asking you to do maybe a 3-hour task that you don't know much about, and you don't know much about the company. Obviously, as a recruitment team, we try and sell it as much as possible, but it is always nice having a chat with someone that you'll be working alongside, if you join. And one of the other things is we've just recently started, because, I mentioned there's so many different technical teams, but what we've just recently started is almost trying to earmark a candidate for a particular team sooner in the process, in the sense that if you have a real interest in, the production side or the nursing side or whatever it may be, we'll try and get you to interview with team members from that team, so that you kind of go through the process with them. And, if you do join, you'll know exactly who you'll be working alongside, who the guys will be in your team, or the girls in your team. So that just really, we found, helps streamline the process and gives people a really good idea of where they'll fit in into the overall organization.
Yeah. Well, that all makes sense, because it's, it's a meeting of minds as well as technical skills, and understanding the profiles. And this was something that we talked about before, actually, Jamie, just while we were arranging, getting organized for this. Is that obviously you guys have rocket shipped like literally a year or so. So you're in, particularly for today's audience, you're in a nice place, in that you have, quite a top heavy team. You've got some really good leads there. We've seen some of them. You've got some very experienced people on board. So there's a little bit of room now to bring on kind of newer talent that are on the upward trajectory, but at early stages in their career. Exactly. I think, Jane, I know you and I actually spoke about this. I think we engaged, not long after I initially started with the business, but back then, like I said, the whole team was 30 people. It was so flat. Yeah. Everyone was pretty much reporting directly to our CTO. And, during this last year, obviously Kevin's having trouble with joining, but he's been kind of instrumental in kind of building out that structure and, giving people a career path within the business. Obviously, you can move up quickly, but we're now kind of at the point where, we can take people on that don't necessarily have 5+ years experience, because, you'll be guided by someone like Paolo or Linda or whoever, just to kind of get you in, and then you can move up fairly quickly, like we do within the business. Yeah. There's a lot of questions coming in here. Actually, there was, just before we lose sight of them, while we were talking about the technical tests, David was curious about whether you interview based on data structures and algorithm problems.
Yes, so as far, I wouldn't know the exact details, but as far as I know, the technical screening, I think they do a few data structure questions, and then the technical interviews is actually an algorithmic problem. So essentially, that part of the interview is you'll be given a solution or a problem, and you'll kind of talk through it with one of our engineers. So as an example, it's actually called the Turtle Challenge. So if you can think of it as a board game, there's a turtle on a board, and you have to make it move and find the exits. So what you actually have to do is you kind of work alongside the engineer and kind of talk through your problem, how you would approach it, how you would make it more efficient, the solution, and then that way you can kind of get a sense of where someone is. So it's not like we don't test someone's, well, there is an element of it, but it wouldn't test someone's skill in the sense that, can you code in C#? I suppose that's part of it, but it's more so what is your understanding of the concepts, and can you apply that to different languages, if that makes sense.
And we're going to come to that, I think, in the time, because, it is nice to know about the various different languages. But just over here, Lisa, some of these might be for you as well, but there are a couple of questions that have come in around the mentioning of Portugal, which was also something that I had shared with the guys before. So you have teams in Portugal, you have teams in Ireland, which is the ones we are focused on now. But there's also the new step that you guys have taken, that you're now a wholly remote company as well. So do you want to talk us through that a bit, so we can know how to,
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of leaning towards, more remote. Our office is based in Dún Laoghaire, and that was where the tech guys would have sat. But obviously since COVID, we've been fully remote, and we're hiring people, everywhere in the country. So we definitely wouldn't see that as a barrier. And we are definitely going towards remote. We're working on a policy for it at the moment, actually. But yeah, we are going fully remote.
So there's flexibility on that. But I think what I'm always saying is that, remote work is really flexible, but in terms of country, you have to sort of determine what country you're going to be in first for multiple reasons. And it's mostly down to just, employment boundaries that all companies must adhere to. So you have
100%.
to sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our company is set up in the US, is certain states in the US, Portugal and Ireland. So they're the countries that you can work remotely in. And those are the only countries that you can work remotely in.
Okay. So that's pretty clear. And then we'll come back to that just when we get to the kind of call to action about if people want to apply, do they, how do they do that if they want to work in Portugal or Ireland? But we can maybe come back to that, will we?
Sure. Yeah. We can loop back in on that. But I guess to kind of follow on from Lisa's question, we've kind of gone with the approach of, whether you're in Kerry or you're in Cork or you're in, if you're in Dún Laoghaire, as long as you can, you'll be set up to work from home. As long as you can work from home, we can accommodate that. It's just really within Ireland and within Portugal. Obviously all our new employees in Portugal are also all remote. It's a very new function for us. We're actually still in the process of setting it up, but we've seen a big difference, and it's kind of given us a lot more accessibility in the market, being more remote than forcing someone to drive to Dún Laoghaire every day. Which was a big struggle in the beginning. Yeah.
It's a really positive outcome, I think, anyway, from some of the obviously the lesser positive occurrences in the last, but it really changes things for companies and for candidates, that you have much more multiple options of places to be working and people to work with. So that's a really cool part of it. Okay, cool. So will we take a look at I think you have some information.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this would have been Kevin's one, but this is essentially our main technology stack. So I guess at the core we are like a .NET house. Most of our backend stuff is built in .NET. So there would be a lot of C#, but again, that's not a sticking point for us. We've hired people that come from like a experience in Java or experience in Python. The concepts are the same as long as you can apply it to a different language. That's the main thing. But you'll also see Amazon Web Services. So we are kind of fully run through AWS, which has also been really useful to help us scale. And then on the front end side, you'll see JavaScript, TypeScript, Angular. And then this is obviously more relating to our mobile teams. So we use Swift and Kotlin for the Android and iOS development. I don't know if you know this, but obviously we have the Let's Get Checked website, which is built internally, and as well as two mobile apps. So they're both built natively in Swift and Kotlin, the Android and the iOS. And then we've actually just started working with React on the front end too. So, these are kind of the core, if you look at these are kind of the core languages that we would use. But again, that doesn't limit the kind of people we would consider for the teams.
Okay.
And then, Splunk is, as far as I know, more on the security side.
Okay. And so that kind of ties nicely in then to what you were describing in the tech tests, that, it's really an investigation of the application of this knowledge, because there's so many different languages in, in operation that hone in on one or other of them.
Exactly. And that's, as part of the interviews, we try and we make it, fairly generic in the sense that if someone's coming with experience with C#, it's great. But if they're coming with experience in Java or, Python, it doesn't really matter as long as you can apply that, and you can, it's really just a change of syntax. So if you can spend a month or two getting up to speed with that, then you should be able to get in,
Yeah. Cool. So a lot for people to work with then. So how does that tie in? Do you want to talk a bit about the more junior-based roles then, and what people here might be looking to apply? We're gonna kind of talk everyone through a sort of a call to action next, before we, before everyone and checks it out. So do you want to tell us a bit about that then, as you guys are the recruiting team? So how would you measure a junior candidate?
Yeah, sure. So you would have seen all the job descriptions that we've shared, and Jane, you actually pointed it out, but they are kind of more, they read more like we're looking for someone with experience, although that's not necessarily the case. I mean, Andy joined us as a graduate. We've got a few other, graduates that have joined, but essentially we try and be as fair as possible through the process. So, although someone might have 10 years experience doesn't necessarily make them a senior in our eyes, and although someone might have 1 year's experience doesn't necessarily make them a junior. So we put everyone through the same process in the recruitment. So everyone meets the same people, everyone does the same tasks, everyone has the same conversations, but based on how that goes, that's where we'll classify you into a particular level. So we've had people with a year's experience that we've given offers to at a mid-level range because, the skill set's really justified it and their abilities really justified it. And at the same time, what's tough is when you've got someone with 15 years experience and they don't necessarily interview that well, maybe because they got into bad habits or whatever the case is. And then we have to kind of mark them according to that. So, to answer your question, for people coming from Code Institutes, it really is, we try and be as fair as possible. So, there might be people coming in that actually we might class as mid-level or more experienced just because of their aptitude more so than their years of experience. Okay.
So if we take a couple of minutes then, because there's 4 roles that we put up on that you guys had shared with us, and I think there was kind of 2 in particular that you thought might be good ones to go into here, and one was the sort of front-end developer, and then one was like the general full stack development position. So I guess the call to action for people who, just to let you know, the call to action, guys, if you want to apply for some of these roles is, obviously first get all of your documents in order. So don't just jump straight now and do it. But the preferred route from Let's Get Checked side is that you apply for a specific role. Now that doesn't mean you can't apply for more than one, but general inquiries can be a bit confusing, in some, because there's there's so many variations for you guys in the tech stack. So, kind of maybe apply your own judgment to the roles that you think best suit your ambitions and your capabilities, and then go forward as a junior, but put your CV through that portal. But I think what we're going to add on top of that as well is the communication between myself and you guys on a weekly basis. So please, anyone who is going to apply, if you could flag it with me and let me know what role you're applying for, so that I can make sure that between myself and the team and Let's Get Checked, we're communicating on a regular weekly basis as to the applications that are there and where they are.
Exactly. And sorry, just to add on to that, I think, like you say, we kind of, if you're applying, we kind of want you to self-select. So we'll share the careers page with you. We've shared those 4 specs, but you might not necessarily just be interested in those. There's a bunch of different roles that we're recruiting for on the technical team. So, self-select, decide what you think fits you best. And then obviously, Jane, you can loop in with us directly just in case, they are going to, we obviously have a lot of applications, so we want to make sure there's nothing slipping through. And, if we keep in contact, then obviously we can process it a bit easier, a bit quicker.
Yeah. And then there is, just when I put those roles up, and we've sort of addressed it now as well today, the practicalities from your side is that the important part of the job spec is that it reflects the team that you're coming into, but you're obviously people at different levels from that spec. So anyone here who's looking at the job specs thinking that they sound quite senior, just please bring this information we're sharing with you now. They have the exact title that you think exactly suits you, but the important thing is that the team in Let's Get Checked are hiring at different levels, including junior ones. So just, get yourself into the process and make sure that you let me know you're doing it so that we can flag it.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was a couple of questions there which were really nice, which I'd love to bring up because it does have a big impact in the working environment. And it was a few questions back. It was Jessica, who seems to be a big fan of you guys for a long time. So she's probably really enjoying this webinar. But you guys certainly, like, I'm based in Ireland, and I've been so aware of you. I've actually been in your offices a long time ago. You're all over the media. You're a massive, incredible success story, and it's been amazing to watch it. But in terms, let's loop back into the company culture a bit, because this kind of growth, it's a rocket ship environment. So, qualities of somebody of what they could imagine working there. Can you tell us a bit more about what it's been like?
Yeah. Like Lisa can give her experience, but from my experience over, the last year and a bit that I've been here, it's still a startup, although, we kind of rapidly moving out of that startup phase into, I guess, a more established company. I always say we're kind of going through those teething issues, those growing pains, when a company is growing as quickly as we are. But like I said earlier, you can, whoever joins can see such a tangible impact of their role on the business and of the growth of the business. And that's kind of what's really encouraged me here. The day I joined, I could see the impact that I was having. So like I said, that's what's made it really, really rewarding from a cultural perspective. But at the same time, on the flip side, in all honesty, it can be stressful. It can be fast paced because, like I said, every role is important to us and everyone adds value. So, if you've got that mentality of, you can join a startup and you're really willing and eager to get your hands dirty and get stuck in and sometimes go above and beyond what your job description entails, then you definitely fit in here.
The thing about startups as well is that there's with so many new ideas and new projects starting all the time, it's not as, I suppose, managed isn't the right word, but it's not as restrictive as a company that's really established and there's now repetitive sort of tasks that are needed doing. Like, they're growing all the time, I imagine, but there's a lot of unknowns, which sometimes you either love or hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Just from my perspective, I came in 6 months ago, so I had kind of missed the kind of craziness that Jamie used to recruitment at the very beginning of the pandemic. But like you mentioned, the career paths sometimes aren't exactly already structured, but that gives everyone here a great opportunity to develop those career paths themselves and get those career ladders in place. Like Jamie mentioned, it was flat almost a year ago in regards to the team, but now we're kind of slowly starting to build those career levels. So if you're someone that is willing to get your hands dirty, really wanting to take on as much as they can and get involved in everything and get entrenched in the company and in their team, then there is plenty of opportunity for growth and quick growth as well, which is really cool. Yeah.
And isn't it a great opportunity as well? The more you see what has been done so far, being able to combine the technical kind of projects and challenges with an product which is just having such a positive impact in so many ways. It's a really nice combination of things to get from your job, right?
Yeah, that's actually one of the other points I wanted to add. One thing we always look out for whenever we hire or whenever we recruit is someone that's kind of bought into what we do as a business. We are trying to make a difference in people's lives. We're not just an e-commerce site. We're not just we're not a marketing company. What we do as a business has a very real impact on people's well-being and on their health, and that's something we always look out for. Someone that really understands that what we're trying to achieve and that we're actually trying to help people.
Yeah, and there's a huge commitment to that from anyone I've ever spoken to. That the eye is really on the big win of what this is creating and what this is doing and what it's changing.
Exactly.
So, I'm conscious of the time. I know we're coming up to 10 to, so if there's anyone there who's been holding back with a question they'd like to ask, now's the last few minutes you can do it. But there's one thing I'd love to just re-emphasize in case anyone it didn't resonate enough with them. But in terms of, we would have a lot of people here today who are career switchers. So we could have people coming from the medical industry, coming from nursing. Are there any particular areas that you would really get excited about if you saw on a CV that, might encourage those people to apply?
I suppose, again, we try and cast a fairly wide net, but I suppose, someone coming from not necessarily a medical background, but that kind of realm, whether it's nursing or biomedical engineering, that's always useful. And even, like I said, the production side, we've got our own production facilities. So that also, someone that kind of understands being a subject matter expert in that area and understanding how things flow through a production facility, that's also always useful. But again, we cast a wide net, but those are always good skill sets that we look out for.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. There's a couple of questions that have come in there. Toby is wondering, are all countries in Europe your market? So just to be clear, in terms of employment, we're looking at roles in Ireland and Portugal now. But in terms of your market, do you sell everywhere? Yeah.
Obviously the US is a very, very big market for us in terms of sales. We are in a few countries within Europe. I don't know if it's the full EU, but obviously Ireland, the UK, and then I think France and Germany are a few others. But I guess our kind of main sales markets are the US and kind of Ireland and the UK, if you want to break it down into that.
Okay, cool. And then just in regards to recruitment market, can you have people working in Northern Ireland? This might be a tricky question. I don't know if you guys have the answer or if it's.
Lisa, I think we've actually got a couple people in Northern Ireland. I don't know if it's.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be confident in saying yes with Brexit. I'm not sure what the limitations are at the moment with that.
Yeah, it's also new that all of these things are still being kind of bedded down and worked out. Yeah. So Martin, we'll have to kind of leap back in and just see how that all pans out. So it's a not sure for now. And then Jonathan was curious about logistics. So in terms of your supply chain, the logistics, is there I presume there's a team there managing that as well?
Yeah. So that's that's a team that we call Flow. So they deal with everything from where the kits are getting manufactured in the facility till the dispatch. So everything that's dealing with those kits leaving the warehouse until it ends up either with an individual or with a business. So that's they manage the logistics side. Okay. Wow.
Crikey. So guys, you have a huge amount of roles. What kind of hiring plans are we looking at for 2021? Is it cement?
Oh, wow. So we look, it is a bit of a moving target, but we did a bit of a headcount plan for 2021, towards the end of last year. If I'm not mistaken, I'm actually just going to pull up my list quickly. We had a target of 105 new hires just in the technology team within 2021. Okay. We've actually made a fairly big dent on that already. I think we're already at 30 or 40 hires, but yeah, there's a good 60 there that we're still looking to fill.
Wowzers. So I guess, look, just to summarize for everybody, please, on a weekly basis, myself and either Jamie or Lisa are going to be touching base. I'm going to be sending them, highlighting names to them of people within our community here who are keen to work with them, who have shared their details. So please do your homework, have a look at those specs, disregard the bit maybe about the level, because the important content is what the team is doing, and make sure you have all your documents looking really great. Get them into Let's Get Checked portal, apply through the role, and then come and tell me, and the process will be picked up by Let's Get Checked from that side. But a huge opportunity, and this is something that our partnership will be we'll continue, and we'll probably be hopefully meeting up over the next number of weeks again to see how everything's going on, and maybe updating people if different roles are coming on board or different priorities are being emphasized.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. It was great. Hopefully the first of many, like I said.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And come here, well done, a massive well done to you all. It must be really busy. Yeah. You'll have your down in tech tests for the next while.
Yeah. Yeah, look, thank you again for having us. It was really great.
Absolutely, and well done, guys, for the time. So look, I'll talk to you all during the week, and for everybody else, enjoy your day. Thanks Jamie.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.